Have you seen the news? Elementor is working on their editor, as we can see in their roadmap. They are redesigning the editor UI, so the field over here that we spend so much time in. And me, as a graduated UX designer, couldn't help but also share my ideas, because as we have seen in other videos, there is a chance that Elementor employees are watching this video. So if you have other ideas as well, share them in the comments below. But right now, I want to share 20 ideas how I think the user experience of the whole Elementor editor could be improved. So let's just get started. The first thing is having a bigger window for choosing a font. If you choose a font over here or in the site settings, you get a preview of what the font looks like. But these are so small. Look at this, for example. It's so small that it's almost unusable. So you're almost forcing people to just go to Google Fonts and just pick a font over here, then remember the name, go back and then typing the name in over here. I myself design in Figma, so I always go to Google Fonts and then pick a font over here and then search it inside of Figma. But as you can see inside of Figma is just a list of text. You can also type it in and search it over here, because loading all of these fonts also makes this a bit slower. So I think the best idea here is to make this window a lot bigger. The second thing is that I think the global settings should be more visible. I use the global settings all the time. I'm constantly switching between the normal page and then the global settings over here. It's 2 clicks away, and many people use the global settings. So if it's such an important feature, then why not, for example, put it over here or over here? Because right now it's 2 clicks, it's a little bit hidden, and I think if it's more visible, that more people will use it, because many people still don't use the global settings. They just set up their fonts and colors just over here instead of using the global features. So just adding that same global icon over here or over here will solve that. I also want to add in over here that I would really love it that it doesn't reload the whole page, because sometimes you're working on something and you're changing a few things over here, you exit, and then the whole page reloads. As you can see, it scrolls up. It's a bit frustrating, because when I'm building websites, I do this, I think, at least 100 times. And it just feels a bit like a roller coaster, to be honest. So if you compare that to Bricks, for example, they have the settings over here, the theme styles. And now I am already inside of the site settings, because these are the settings for the whole website. And it didn't have to reload. So if Elementor could build it like that, then the experience would be nicer. This is a small one. Over here, it says Widget. But then over here it says Elements. So what is it, right? They are using 2 kind of names. I think Widgets is okay. A lot of applications use widgets. I think WordPress also uses the name Widgets. Why not just call it Widgets, right? This one has to do with the container. So the width settings for the container can be found in the layout tab over here. But when you go to an individual widget, it can be found over here, which is not very consistent and a bit confusing. And I think that placement of all of these elements inside of the Elementor editor should be a big discussion on its own. And if I would be the designer of Elementor, then what I would do is, first of all, I would make it so that you can open multiple different tabs. That is one, because now you have to constantly click. Maybe even a feature where you can have them open by default if you want to. And I'm going even a step further by saying that maybe it's a good idea to just combine all of those 3 tabs. Or if they think that that's too extreme, just combining the content and the advanced, because the things in the advanced tab are not really that advanced. For example, margin and padding, is that advanced? You could say, but it has actually more to do with style, right? Margin and padding is part of styling in CSS, and also these settings over here. So I think in general, it's super hard to divide it in these 3 tabs. So why not give us a whole list? And then maybe a search option over here so that you can search for the thing you're looking for. So for example, if you're looking for responsive, you could just type in responsive over here, and then this thing will pop up. So lots of ideas for this one. I would just combine it in one big list, because then you get a little bit more space over here as well, because you don't need this tab, and then just add a search box. The next one is that responsive modes should be a lot more visible. Right now, the responsive modes are over here, and when you click it, it adds this bar on the top, which is nice, because before it was just a preview over here. It had a little pop-up and you could click that. Now this is better, but why not leave a top bar as default always? right? Some page builders have that. For example, breakdance, which you can see right here, and bricks as well, because every website needs to be responsive. It's a super essential feature. So having a top bar would solve that, and you can even stack a lot more features in it. For example, breakdance has this brilliant feature where you can select another page, and they even have a preview for dynamic content. So right now, what you can do inside of Elementor is press Command E, and then you can find anything else. But wouldn't it be great if you had a top bar over here and it says recent templates or recent pages, recent things you have edited with Elementor? Because right now you have to have a lot of tabs open. Not everybody likes that. So then you have to go over here and then you have to remember the name, but something like recently edited, that would be so cool. And by always having that top bar, you don't even need this bar anymore. You see, so you're saving space over here. Inside of the widgets, you're saving space over here, and that makes it look a lot cleaner. The next one is also in the same category, less is more. These two tabs over here, I do not think we need them at all. First of all, it's confusing because here it says widget, here it says elements, global widgets. Do a lot of people use them? I don't know. It takes up quite a bit of space, but a global widget is based on a normal widget. So it's kind of similar to the favorites feature. Favorites could also be a tab over here. That would make sense, but if that would make sense, then you can also just add the global over here and only show it if you have used global widgets. Or you could also leave it just on by default to motivate people to use it, because Elementor also has decided to leave the favorites over here. But it's the same idea, less is more. Alright, so the input fields for dynamic content are a bit small. So let's say that you're building an archive page and you want this to be a dynamic title. So you go over here and you go to post title and it automatically loads in the name of the page, right? But sometimes you want to add something before that. So for example, archive, like that. And then it dynamically adds the post title after it. But sometimes you're also adding a little bit of CSS over here. And when you start adding things, then this text box is just too small. You have to scroll from left to right. It's not a very nice experience if the text is longer. It's a tiny field, right? So why not make it a bit bigger? We have some space on the left, but it would be even better if it would be a box that you can extend. Since we have the pencil option, which is custom unit input, you can put in anything you want. I already said this in my update video. Why is it an extra click? I mean, why not make it into a dropdown when there isn't enough space, right? In the same way as websites are responsive. I think that would make more sense. I would happily drag my editor a little bit to the right to have all the options here, which will save one click, because this is also something that you click on hundreds of times when building websites. Okay, the widget panel in general. So right now the design is a 2-column layout, but I've seen in breakdance, as you can see, that it is just a 1-column layout. But this makes it a lot easier to scan because you can just move your eyes from here to here and you don't have to go like this. And if you compare this to the Elementor editor, if you're trying to find a widget, your eyes are like this, you know? But with breakdance, it's just easier to scan. The icons inside of Elementor take up so much space. It's not really necessarily that they are so big. I mean, it looks nice visually, but in terms of searching, it's not very nice to scan because you constantly have to go from left to right. Okay, now this one. Some designers at Elementor will not love me for this one, but I do not like the new theme builder, how they have designed that. So if you now go to the theme builder, they have this visual appearance. I like the idea because it's less WordPressy, but I find it harder to use, especially because you don't have the normal options that you have when you are in WordPress. For example, duplicate a template, right? You do have the previews and that is nice, but it's not worth it for me to sacrifice all the other features and just having them in a vertical list where it's easy to scan. I like this part, right? But if you just switch to the old version, you also have the options over here. It doesn't look as good, but it is more usable. And this part of Elementor should be more functional than it should be nice visually. Even though I love visual design, as you guys know, I spend a lot of time on details. Just the options, for example, quick edit to change the title. How do you do that in a new one? It's not possible. You see the type over here. You see where it's applied. it's just a lot more useful. You have the shortcodes over here. Sometimes you need that. So I'm sorry, Elementor, but I do not like it. So I would really just love it if this was the default. I know you can set it off in the settings for people that want to know and agree with me on this. Okay, so if you go to settings and then experiments, you scroll down, you can find this option default to new theme builder. You can put that on inactive and then it stays in the normal WordPress version. So I think Elementor's intention here was good, but I think they did an overkill in terms of visual design. In general, I believe that Elementor should hire more UX designers, because right now it feels a little bit like that the developers, they come up with the features and then they just shove it to the visual designers. They try to make it look nice, but then they overdo it and they step the whole UX part. I think if the visual designers at Elementor will be building websites themselves a lot, then they would have found these issues, because I'm just speaking from my own experience here. But this is just more like a big helicopter view of how I see Elementor as a company, how they make decisions, actually their design process. Okay, enough about this. Let's focus on the next one, which is similar. It has to do with the naming. So right here we have templates. Templates, the word itself is a little bit confusing inside of WordPress. That's not Elementor's fault, and that is because the word templates is also used for pre-designed templates, right? Which you can find in the kit library. They now call it kit library, but I think just in general, the names over here could maybe be reconsidered. I know that's a very hard choice to make because now people are used to this. Pop-ups, that makes sense, but saved templates, let's just start with that one. Why are all the templates in the theme builder not saved templates? They are technically also saved templates. Everything is a saved template, but in saved templates, you only find the saved templates which you can use for specific sections or whole pages. But I think if they would just combine the theme builder with template and just call it templates, or I don't know, global templates, like Bricks has over here. So if you go to Bricks, you go to templates, you just have one tab, templates, everything is in here. Over here, you can have the template type. I don't think that that's that good. I like the Elementor version better, where inside of the theme builder, the old version, you can see all these tabs, but they could easily add a tab over here like individual templates, or I don't know, all templates, and then just add these one between it. And because you can see the type over here, there will be no confusion. So that in terms of naming, the kit library, same thing. I would say, why not call it pre-designed kits? But if you don't know what kit is, then you have to click to find out. I do want to say something about the landing pages, because I honestly still don't know what this is. Like, why would you not just create a page over here, which is also an individual page? Because when you create a landing page, let's just do that, and you just exit, what it does is it doesn't give you the menu. And I get that, because landing pages don't have menus, but you always have that option over here. If you go to settings, you can always switch it from full width to canvas anyways, and that's what I think it is. How is this page called? Let's see, 962. So now let's just save the draft. Let's go back to our dashboard, but then it's not part of the pages. So if you would create a page over here and then use the Elementor canvas feature, you would have technically a landing page. So you could do that, but then you also have some landing pages over here, because this is where that one is saved. I don't know. It's just a bit confusing. And the last thing that I want to say about the theme builder is that I would really love to have an all parts, this feature, but then in the normal view over here. You can only go there if you click on add new over here, then it doesn't work. But if you click on add new, then it reloads. And now the theme builder and the saved templates are mixed together. This is what I want. Like, it's already built in, as you can see. So these are just a few things that I wanted to say about the theme builder. I think they could have some improvements. Staying in the backend, if you go to custom code, I'm using custom code a little bit more. Let's just go to a website where I actually have that. Yeah, over here. And you are in one template. And now there's no way to go back. I know, of course, you can click over here or you can click over here. But I would really love if they would just have a button over here to go to custom code again. And it's the same with the fonts over here. It would be nice if there would be, I don't know, a button like this, just to make it easy to navigate. All right, now the following one. So if you go to style, let's say you have a section like this or a container and you want to add a color as a background. You can go over here and then add a color as a background. Now it doesn't do that because there's already an image on top. So that color is on the background. But if you click on gradient, now it becomes a gradient. So here they say gradient, they say video, slideshow, but here they have actually combined two options, which is the image and the color. Why not have a color over here, then an image, and then a gradient? I mean, gradient is even more related to color than an image is, right? And when you hover over here, it says classic. This is not really clear compared to the other names. So if it's possible, then just color, image, gradient. For the color, you could just do a bucket icon, and for the image, just an image icon. And I don't know if this one is possible, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense when you look at it from a visual perspective, maybe not a coding perspective, I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one, which is multi-select. So there is a multi-select option inside of Elementor. So let's say that we want these three buttons to be before this button, right? So we can click on the first one, then hold Command. That doesn't work, but it works over here. So it would be nice if it would also work over here. But then if we click and drag, selects one, as you can see. So I'm selecting the last two, clicking, and it only selects one. So why does it not select the three that I want to reposition in the editor? And then the last thing is that I would really love for Shift also to work. This is the case in a lot of design tools. When you hold Shift, it selects everything. So for example, you could just go like this and you can skip a few. But right now, when you want to select like 10 things, you have to click 10 times. So I hope that that one is possible as well. The preview mode. I think a good idea for the preview mode is to keep the top bar on. When you have responsive mode on, that is actually what happens. So you can click Command P or just click over here, and then you are in the preview mode. If we have that top bar, you could just leave it on and it gives some kind of indication that you are still in the editing version. What Bricks has is the preview mode over here, and when you click it, you still have these buttons over here, which is a little bit more visual. Sometimes I'm forgetting that I'm in the editing mode. Like I said, it only shows when you have responsive on, but when you don't have that responsive bar on, then it just completely hides everything. So some indication of that you are in editing mode would be nice. So Elementor actually wins in this point because you want to preview the different devices in preview mode. So this is fantastic that they have that. Yeah, so if you combine this with always having the top bar, then I think it's perfect. Okay, this one is from Bricks. I love it. If you are in the Bricks editor and you want to add more widgets over here. So what you have to do is you have to click on a widget, then you have to go to the plus, and then you can add widgets. So for example, you can add another button, an icon, an image. You see how that works? You can just click. And that is so nice for the experience, because when you work in a tool like Figma and you already know what you want, you can just be like, okay, heading, click, text, button, and then you can move on instead of having to click and drag, because sometimes in Elementor, that is a bit buggy and it starts shaking, and that's not the best experience. So click to add would be awesome. This one has to do with responsive mode, and that is more breakpoints. Right now you can activate 6 breakpoints via the site settings, but I would love if you can add even more, because what I found is that the distance between the laptop and the desktop is a little bit too wide for the content. So if you could just add more breakpoints and give them names as well, then that would be awesome. This is more like a feature request, but it also improves the experience. This one is really small, and that has to do with icon design. Right now we have the 9 dots over here. But what are you doing here? The only thing you're doing here is you're adding widgets on top of the page. So when I saw the plus in Bricks, it just made a lot of sense. In Breakdance, they have this add button, also makes a lot of sense, but this is not really clear what it means. It could be options as well. I mean, on many apps we have the 9 dots, for example on Google, but here you don't add anything. So just transforming this into a plus, I think, would make more sense. And then one of the last ones is the tools and the settings could be combined. We have enough room over here. I know that it's not exactly the same thing, but you could argue that a maintenance mode is a kind of setting in the same way a debug bar is a setting. Over here they have the import export kit. Maybe that could move to the actual kits over here, because if you click on the kit, it directly goes to the kits. So maybe just move this to the kits, have one page where you can export, import, and see all the templates. Just 3 big options. I think you will make it easier for people to find. And you also have a place to explain what the kit is. since the name doesn't directly suggest what it is, in my opinion. And then the last one I want to leave up to you. Like I said, Elementor sometimes reads the comments under the videos, so make sure to drop your suggestions down below. Did you think I was too critical? Do you agree? Do you disagree with some things? Also let me know. I really like doing this because I have a big passion for product design. I love Elementor and I want it to be better and I want it to succeed. So when I see something in other tools, I think it's much better to share ideas than instead of complain. It takes a little bit more effort, but at the end of the day, I don't constantly want to switch from page builder. So that's why I'm doing this as well. I hope that you enjoyed it and hopefully I will see you in the next video.